Good morning. Denise Dryden. I'm so glad you're here for this weekly video. I do these once a week. I have tons of them on my website and on YouTube and on Facebook Live. So if you like this, by all means, go back and find some more. So today, what I do is I throw a bunch of concepts and they come up all week and I put them in a basket and sort of shake them up, kind of, using an analogy, and then sort of lay them out and go, what do they all have in common? What have I been experiencing this week? So what I want to talk about is frequency, sort of kids on the spectrum, executive functioning, intuition, and us, right? Us. So I'm going to start with when I was in the summer before 6th grade, I moved into a brand new neighborhood. And this was a neighborhood that was old, it was established. People sort of stayed in their houses. The kids were born there. They all went to elementary school there, and that was like their thing, right? This was their school, this was their elementary school. And I was a new 6th grader. And what I noticed was that these patterns of the neighborhood, who hung out with who, the parents, the teams, everything was set. It had been set for a long time. And having this new girl come in who was athletic, who, didn't like school. I mean, I had a lot of things going on. And it's not about what I was doing. It's more that I was a new energy in the whole swirl. And so what it did is it changed the friendship dynamics. It changed the sports teams. It changed the family ties, the parent friendships. It evolved into a completely different neighborhood once our family moved in there. And it sort of feels like that's where we are right now, is that things are changing and we're evolving. So what I want to do is I want to throw in this idea that there's this new frequency. And we've been talking about this at different times, is how to find that steadiness, how to find that balance. And that frequency is, whether it's the 13th frequency, whether it's the divine feminine, whether it's the 5D, it doesn't really matter what we call it. Let's just say that at some point we started accessing a different way of breathing and a different way of soothing ourselves, and that this frequency is intelligent, it's expansive, and it can hold us both in the day-to-day stuff that we're doing and sort of in a different place. So we're actually holding 2 or 3 frequencies all at the same time. Now, the reason I'm talking about frequencies is that it pertains to kids and it pertains to us and how we learn. So this new frequency, or our access to it, has changed everything, right? Absolutely changed everything. We're creating a new normal. It's going to establish a new set of myths as to, before the shift, before the frequency, there was this. After the frequency, there's this. There's going to be new ways of being and living. So those of us who are courageous souls who've been holding this frequency for some times, we've evolved, we've adapted. And there's also been this huge surge of kids that showed up about 20, 25, 30, 30s are not on the farthest end, but mostly like 20 years ago, that came in and they were just exactly like this frequency. And they changed our school systems, they changed our parenting, they changed everything. So what does this frequency offer? Well, I'm going to list you some things out and then we're going to play with this. So they're multidimensional. They can see things from many different perspectives. They have multiple intelligences. They have intelligences that come naturally to them. They have a heightened sensory interactions with the world. All of their senses are alive and on board and working. They're incredibly perceptive. They can see things and minutiae and connections that we don't see because we don't pay attention that same way. We meaning the older generations or the existing culture that was here when they arrived. They are intuitive gatherers of all information. So there's an intuition to them, and they cannot be shaped. We cannot mold them. They don't want to be molded. They don't really adhere very well to changing to meet our standards. They need us to change to meet them. So we see this in our children. We see this in attentiveness, that it's really different, that their interests and awareness are difficult to predict and manage. Like, I thought you liked this, but now you're over here, but then you like this. And it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this? Their presence is deep and profound. And yet there's this aloofness and this individualism that as well. So it's both, you know, total presence and aloofness and a detachment. Yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead. I'm still not going to school. These are some of the things that we're seeing. So this is connected. They're really connected to Earth and also technology. So they can feel for animals. They can love to be outside, and they can be totally addicted to their screens at the same time. And they're mature and they're immature. They're mature in some ways of the world and so out of sync with the societal norms, right? So they're just not, I mean, it's an interesting way to see. So they don't fit into the norms that are from the old. So what I was able to do is sort of look at the baby boomers, where there's this adherence to authority. There's this way that when someone says jump, you say how high. You work your way up the ladder. The father or the mother parent is the authority in the house, the teachers, and that these kids don't have any reaction to authority. They don't have any reaction to the power holders. They kind of go like, really, you're going to do that? That's interesting. And for the Gen Xers, there's no striving. There's no way to increase motivation. There's no fire you can light underneath them and make them go do something. Like, come on, don't you want to do that? They're like, man, look at you trying so hard to get me to do something. So what we know about family roles and children's roles and societal norms and expectations is that much of these experiences and conditionings are ours. They're not these kids. These are ours. We grew up with authority. We grew up striving. We grew up trying to be the top of the game. We grew up trying to show to everybody that we could make money. And we're trying to stick this conditioning, these patterns of ours, these norms of ours onto these children, and they're like, not mine, get away. Okay, so here's what I put together in the last 10 years of working with teens and looking at psychoeducation testing and kids that were in placement because they had really literally frozen out their family and refused to do anything. That they're highly anxious, that their attention moves from hyper-focus to no focus at all, that they resist any sort of linear planning or performing. Linear doesn't work for them. And that they have these deficits in executive functioning because they don't follow linear thinking. So I went and looked up executive functioning, which is the measurable set of cognitive processes that are necessary for the cognitive control of behavior. The cognitive control of behavior. So this is selecting and successfully monitoring behaviors that facilitate the attainment of chosen goals. In other words, you work the goals, you're doing good. You don't work the goals, we have a problem with the way you do this. This executive functioning measurement system has been some of the cruelest things that I've seen come through with kids in education. And it also is a great problem solver for parents who don't know what to do. Because measuring executive functioning is connected to attention, ADD, ADHD, and it's connected to the diagnosis. So it's the ability to activate, to focus, to effort, to show emotion, to hold emotion on something, to have memory, and to have action. So that's sort of what they're going with when we're measuring, you know, as educators, as program providers, executive functioning skills. Or it is really about planning, self-monitoring, self-control, working memory, time management, and organization. And all of that is that linear. This is what you have to do in the 21st century in order to get ahead. This is what we did in the 20th century. This is what we did in the 19th century. We plan, we monitor, we control ourselves, we manage it, and then we organize it and finish it. And they're like, yeah, not working for me. Not doing that. And we're kind of a little stumped. Let's put it that way with what's going on. A little stumped that this doesn't work, right? So this linear, my notes are all over the place. And it is important for me to use notes because if anyone's ever been on a video where I'm just chatting, oh my, it can go all different directions. So this keeps me on task for what I need to do in my set time of performance here, or information. So these are linear approaches of learning and problem solving, and they're measured and they're taught and they're practiced and they're expected in the K through 12 systems. And that education system is starting to become sort of like an old norm that's leaving, and we have to establish what we consider a new norm, right? So what happens if you have a multidimensional kid with kick-ass intelligences who cannot learn in a linear fashion, and you only know how to support them in a linear fashion? Or what if you're an adult like me who doesn't learn in a linear fashion, right? So, you know, we end up dealing with things like we're the outsiders, we're the misfits, we struggle with the norms. We can't find meaning in school or work or the things that people get up and go and do every day and they seem to like it. It's like, why? There's self-medication, whether it's with friends or screens or food or drugs or alcohol, especially as adults, you know, sex, shopping, spending. There are all these self-medication things, which is, I'm so miserable, I don't know what to do. Yet, these kids are our future brains. They're our future children. They are our existing frequency right now. And so what we're doing is we're learning how to adapt and shift with that. So what I wanted to do is I brought some tarot cards. This is what the brain looks like when it's trying to function in a system. This is the messenger card of swords, of the mind. It's like, whoa, too much, can't do it, overwhelmed. This is what they look like when their energy is engaged, is that they're playful, they're light, they sparkle. Emotions can be freed from an enormous cage that they felt like they were in. And my very favorite of all is that when you take this sort of misfit that's medicating to hone in the focus, where there's shame or there's sadness or there's hopelessness, on an earth plane, what it looks like is that they need some freedom to be able to get out and go on, you know, it's called adventure, to go play, to go find out what this other multidimensional information is that's coming in. So those cards are all the messenger cards in the tarot deck that I thought were interesting from each of the elements. So if these kids are our future, and many of us know that this is an existing struggle, what we may be experiencing is that we have kids that cannot stay on task and do or want to do their assignments. They don't like homework, they don't want to do it, it seems redundant, they don't understand it, and it's just flat, doesn't have any energy for them. They can't track deadlines or turn in assignments or prepare for tests because those are markers in time that say you're supposed to know all of this by this time. And they're like, why? I already know it. What's it going to do for you to test me on this? It's an interesting perspective. And we as parents, we as grandparents, we as teachers, we end up coddling and holding and doing homework for them, helping them with their timelines. We become their timeline. We manage that, we are now watching all of the data coming in on our screens and tracking their deadlines. We're managing their day, their weeks, their years. We manage their school, their grades, and we manage their track into college, which, of course, if they're trying to get into college and they've been propped up by mom or dad for the last 6 years, how is that going to be a successful experience, right? So what we do is when we prop them up in the linear lifestyle that we know, not necessarily what they do, right? And it doesn't work. So right now, check in with yourself. Does it work? Has it been working? Are you happy? Are you free of allowing your child to have their own educational, their own life experience, their own work experience, their own self-management experience? Because what we're looking at is a beautiful, multi-dimensional brain that has a new way of doing things that we're not used to. So our children are leading us into a different normal, right? A different way of being. In order to support them and to reduce their struggle, we have to agree that we do no harm. That we're not going to hurt them or shape them or compress them or condition them or force them into a box that isn't theirs. The most powerful thing that we can do as adults is to stop pushing them into something that's comfortable for us that isn't comfortable for them. So part of what I do is I give you some tips, some taps on the shoulders, some ideas of what you can do when this is starting to ring true. So I made a list of 5 things. 1, spend time doing an honest timeline about yourself, your elementary, middle school, high school, college, or life experiences. Time them out. Time them out in the sense of friends. Time them out in the sense of academics. Time them out in subject areas that you liked. Time them out in struggles, in joys, in sorrows. And get an idea of your own life. That's what this whole, lockdown has offered us, is time to sort of go like, oh, yeah, I had some problems in school, and I'm seeing some problems in my kiddo, and oh no. And then look at what worked for you. What didn't work for you? What did you need that you didn't have? Just go there. Just do that timeline and get some awareness of who you are first, right? And then number 2, get curious and build some skills around multidimensional perspectives. How do you take a subject and go, well, we can use the elections, we can use this COVID, we could use anything that's going on right now. Here's my perspective. What is this perspective? What is this perspective? What is this perspective? What is this perspective? And try to see it from a multidimensional side and pair it with intuition, which is, oh, when I look at it that way, I get a whole different sense of what this is. And if you have this multidimensional and intuitive skills, develop them further. If you don't have them, go get them. So 2, go get your multidimensional and intuition skills going. Number 3, at any time when you feel frustrated, angry, impatient, worried, or fearful of your future, our future, your child, or this school year, or anything that we're putting it into, put on those multidimensional perspectives and play with them, which is this fear real? What am I worrying about? This one might be worried, but this one might not. So find out what these multidimensional perspectives have to offer. Put yourself in your child's shoes, or in a child that you're judging because you don't have children and you can't believe kids these days, or you're a grandparent, right? Put yourself in their shoes and see them as a peer. See them from many different angles. Okay? So again, not apply this perspective, this multidimensional perspective, to something that you're noticing. Number 4, learn how to use your intuition. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? And what is my gut telling me, right? What is it my gut is telling me? And then act on it. Don't resist or stuff it down or ignore it. That doesn't work. It's tap, tap, shh, go away. I don't like the truth you're telling me. Tap, tap. It's like, act on it. If your gut says, oh, he hates this programmed school, cannot sit for another second in front of a Zoom camera, you got to meet your child where they are and what you notice. And then you say, hey, I notice it's really hard for you to sit in front of that screen. Tell me more about this. And listen with all of these different senses of you. And then start to look at, how do we problem solve this? Because the problems aren't going to go away. It's time to start acting on, what are we going to do if my kid can't learn online? What am I going to do if he can't keep track of his assignments? How am I going to find out where this is mine, where this is his? Okay? And number 5, learn how to do it differently, or learn how to learn differently, right? So be an advocate for yourself, and you as a parent, you as a partner, you as an employer, employee, play with this, grow and expand, try new things, follow the energy that awakens you. So when something sort of comes up and you realize, wow, I've got all of my attention on this, follow it. That's what our kids are doing. They're following the things that have their attention. And support and nurture that energy when it lights up in you or your kids. And know how to see and feel this when it happens. Know how to recognize when the energy sort of zings you and you go like, yes, that makes sense to me. And then follow it. So this is the kind of stuff that I do on a weekly basis. And today we took on multidimensionals, kids on a spectrum, frequency, and executive functioning. So let's have fun. See, it's fun with this, play with this week, and I will see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.